Ever since Deltarune Chapter 5 dropped, I've been seeing talk online about a third route that would involve aborting the weird route in order to take the Thorn Ring from Noelle and craft the Twisted Sword with it. It isn't a new theory, and it was an even worse theory before, but this chapter has given it a surge of popularity and it's irritating me to no end to hear people talk about it, so here I am to talk about people talking about it. There are two driving forces in this game, right? You've got the tail which must be followed and the tail which must not. There isn't a third route that requires you to start by following the tail, then switch over and sample a little bit of the tail, then go back to the tail for 4 chapters before finally crafting a magical item that will definitely be enough of a catalyst to start a new route all on its own from there. A route in between, ooh, scary gaster parallels. The Tale of Purgatory, which lets you access the secret 8th chapter of Deltarune and gives you the true, happiest, smiliest ending to the game where everyone holds hands and sings hallelujah because we managed to do just enough of this game's version of genocide that we don't have to deal with any lasting consequences. Yippee! Like, can we read? Can we think critically about the ideas we had just for like 7 seconds before incorporating a fucking theory of the week into our view of this game? I just want to ask, like, what would be the point? What would be the point of a route in between? We're so lost in the sauce that we forget that the biggest driving question of this game is whether the ending can even be changed in the first place. The fact that even a second route exists to begin with is such a big deal to its own narrative that performing the second route is equated to breaking the game itself. We forget that, as of Chapter 5, you need a wiki page open in order to figure out how to start the weird route. It all feels like just ignoring where the story is going in favor of unpredictability. Despite being possibly a different path to the prophecy, the weird route is a more restrictive path. Toby can write something that feels like breaking out of the boundaries set by the game, but in doing so, he's just expanding those boundaries a little bit to include another linear narrative. A forbidden path, yes, but nonetheless a path that may only be followed to its extreme. A third route that breaks those boundaries even more brings nothing new to the table. All that said, there is a little merit to the question of the Twisted Sword. It's certainly always been a mysterious item, and Chapter 3 only added to this confusion with the introduction of the Black Shard, another weapon that, like the Twisted Sword, gives plus 16 attack. The Black Shard has the Slay Dark effect as well, which allows it to deal super high damage against Dark-type enemies, and it can be equipped to both Chris and Noelle, unlike the Twisted Sword, which can only be equipped to Chris. Crafting the Twisted Sword requires a pure crystal, which presumably requires all 5 shadow crystals, one of which comes from the Roaring Night, so to even obtain the Twisted Sword to begin with forces you to get rid of the Thorn Ring. Like, objectively the strongest weapon in this entire game, probably will continue to be so for all 7 chapters, just to make a weapon that's basically a shittier version of the Black Shard. This got even worse in Chapter 5 with the introduction of a new ring-type weapon for Noelle, the Gilded Rose. It's unused, but it seems if anything like an item intended for Chapter 6. No unused code exists showing where it would have been obtained in Chapter 5. Noelle has yet to appear in the party, and especially, it's a fancy flower ring. Like, you would think that Susie would want to give it to Noelle, right? But we can be pretty confident from Noelle's flavor text for all her Chapter 3 to 5 items that the next time she joins the party, it's going to be with Chris, and Chris alone. The notable thing about the Gilded Rose here is that it also gives plus 16 attack and plus 2 magic. This is a considerable downgrade from even the Freeze Ring in terms of strength, because Ice Shock's scaling is genuinely stupid. Like, the plus 4 magic going down to plus 2 is like 60 damage off of Ice Shock. But it's still just another example of a weapon filling this plus 16 attack niche and pushing the Twisted Sword out even more. So obviously there's an important reason to foreshadow the Twisted Sword this hard, and as of Chapter 5, we know that reason is the trance effect. Not a trance down effect as some had imagined based on its unused down arrow icon. Rather, the down arrow seems to call to mind other items with down arrow abilities such as Buster TP down, Scythe TP minus 10% money, or minus 90% money. All examples of either TP cost decreases to spells or debuffs. And would you look at that, the trance effect on the Thorn Ring is both. I don't really know what it means for Chris, what positive effect it could possibly give them to justify taking a bunch of damage over time from the fusion of a thorn and a sharp piece of glass cutting into their hand, but it's certainly a key item for the weird route. So, how do you even get the Twisted Sword on the weird route? I actually think it's pretty simple. Just like every other Shadow Crystal related item, it will likely show up in future files within the same save slot. Chapter 5b is unique in that it is the only chapter that never gives you the opportunity to save your game. When you complete it, the only evidence we have right now that the chapter was ever played is in the special completion data it generates, which does not show up as a star on your profile like normal completion data does. From the player's perspective, certainly from my perspective upon completing Chapter 5b, I saw that there was no star there, no save file, whatever, and I'm like, why wouldn't I just jump back in right now and start playing the aborted weird route and see what that does? Even if you abort the weird route first, you can still go back at any point and play through Chapter 5b on that save slot. Since you can never save, it's not even possible to overwrite an existing save file. The completion files for the normal and weird route are entirely separate, so no matter what you do, no matter what order you do them in, it isn't going to matter. It is the perfect mechanism by which to allow a player to experience two divergent timelines within the same save slot. Now, I get it if you remain unconvinced. Weird as this route may be, save file nonsense like this might seem like a bridge too far. Ultimately, this isn't a theory video. I'm making this to point out why other theories suck ass first and foremost, and I would encourage you, the viewers, to come up with your own theories that actually make sense. There are many ways it could go, and I'm choosing to ignore other plausible explanations. For instance, a fifth Shadow Crystal could be obtained in Chapter 7b by some other means, in favor of aborting the route being required to continue it, because until other evidence comes along, it seems both plausible and narratively satisfying. Whether a part of the weird route or not, the aborted weird route version of Chapter 6 is certainly going to see some changes. Noelle may not be in the same state she was the day before, but learning the Dark Worlds were real after the events of Chapter 5b are bound to end in tragedy, and shine an interesting light on her character. I would like for those all to be tied together as part of the mandatory events of the route, but it's all going to be peak regardless. I really can't complain. That's where I'll leave the video off. Extra speculation down in the comments if you are so inclined. Again, it's not a theory video. Have a good one.